And we're live. Hi, guys. Welcome to Whiskey, Wine, and Writing. Excuse the giggles. Okay, this has been one hell of a pre-show. Hilarious. Okay, the topics are insane. Anyways, I am your host, Natasha Rollerson.
And
I don't know if I said my last name.
And I'm your other host, Nikki. And tonight we have a great show for you. We haven't done one of these before where we brought in an expert on something that every writer needs to know but doesn't really know where to start, and that's on personal branding with the amazing Meghan Engdahl. And she is a personal friend of mine, and we actually work together in the mystical day job land. And she is a marketer who, she'll tell you about yourself. Go for it.
Hey, what up? I'm Meghan. I am, as my bio said, I'm a marketing and branding nerd. I've been working for the past 10 years in marketing and branding, and I love it. And as this show is aptly titled Whiskey, Wine, and Writing, I do have my wine with me. You'll notice it's awkwardly white because it's actually milk. I'm currently pregnant, so I can't really partake in libations. When I was little, I would get served milk in wine glasses and call it my very white wine. So tonight I'm drinking my very white wine while we do this show. So anyway, a little bit about me. I have an MBA in marketing. I have a horrible degree in music that does me absolutely no good. And I also have an MA in arts administration because in my previous life, I really wanted to run a symphony. Alas, that did not work out. And now I work in nonprofits, which is still really cool, helping them discover who they are, what they want to do, and then how do they communicate that with everyone out in the world to make sure that people know who they are and give them money, which is always important. So we're here to talk about branding, which is like my favorite subject ever. So I'm going to start with a question to all of the viewers, which is, what is your favorite brand and why? So we'll actually start with our hosts, and we'll put them on the spot. So Tasha and Nikki, what do you have? What's your favorite brand?
Well, my favorite brand, well, now I kind of want to change my answer. We talked about this before the show, but now I feel like it's lame. But one of my favorite brands is Simon & Jewelry. They have these ring ads where it's just a ring, and it has a tag. Am I actually?
Mm-hmm. You are.
Okay. So anyway, it has a tag and it has funny, catchy sayings like, "Who needs a?" It's not called a foot ring for a reason, or something. And then it shows a beautiful ring. And I just always thought those were clever and catchy because most diamond ring commercials and ads are like men and women just kissing and making out and looking happily ever after into each other's eyes, and there's veils. But this one, it's just the ring on a black background with a funny tag, and I love it.
Very cool.
I had actually said before the show that mine was Marvel because, I mean, let's face it, Marvel is amazing, and, you know, who doesn't know Marvel and all their great cinematics and their comics and everything like that. But, you know, the more I thought about it, the more I want to say Supernatural because I'm a huge fan of Supernatural, and I always love the way they kept to a sort of theme where each season their supernatural thing would explode out of something. It would either shatter out of glass, the title would shatter out of glass, or there would be fire. It would keep the base elements, but it would go with something new, so it would keep the same brand. And anybody who knows Supernatural knows Carry On My Wayward Son by Candace. So that's been in every season without fail. Like, they have so many things to their brand that all you need, and you only have to ask about one, and any Supernatural fan is just going to know exactly what you're talking about.
Cool, cool. Do any of our viewers have a favorite brand they want to share?
Not yet, but hey guys, if you want to tweet us, remember, you can hashtag WWWriting or click through to the Google Hangout, come in the Q&A section, and we'd be happy to read your questions and answers out loud. I know a friend of mine is watching, so hey, newfangled housewife, tell me your favorite brand.
Guys, remember to use our hashtag WWWriting. If you do the @ it kind of gets lost because that's our main feed, so everything, you know, kind of goes to that. If you use the hashtag, we find it, and we are able to put it on air live, and that's what we're aiming for. So tweet to us, tell us your favorite brand, use the hashtag. We want to hear all about it.
So my favorite brand, as we've talked about some really good ones, is Chick-fil-A. I really love Chick-fil-A. I find it fascinating. I love that they were able to get teenagers to have quality customer service. I love that they do their products with quality. Everything basically about them says quality and a standard, and they really live up to it. They live out their Christian values, which is actually fascinating to me. They make decisions based on that. and have chosen to be closed on Sunday, even though it's a massive revenue loss for them as a fast food restaurant. So I actually really admire that about their brand. They've taken a stand, they've taken a position, and they really own it in the marketplace. So as we talk about brands, brands can be anything from a service brand like Chick-fil-A. It can be a product brand like Marvel. It can be a product brand like Supernatural. It can be a product brand like the rings that Nikki was talking about. There's all sorts of different brands. You can even have personality brands. So think about Oprah. Think about Obama. He actually has a brand in and of himself. All sorts of personalities out there have brands. So you as an author need to have a brand as well. Not only do your books stand for your brand, but you yourself do. So tonight we're going to walk through just some big key ideas of what is a brand, and then what makes a truly great brand, so that you as an author can come in, figure out what's your brand, how do you make it great, and how do you make yourself stand out in a sea of thousands upon thousands of people who think they're writers but really aren't. So
we actually have 2 viewers chimed in so far.
Oh, cool.
First one is Michelle Stewart, and she said, Moose Jaw is my favorite brand. Funky, playful, irreverent. I actually have no idea what Moose Jaw is. Does anyone?
Me either. I kind of want to wait. Okay, so I'm going to look up Moose Jaw now because I really want to know what that is. So keep talking while I look up. I just want to know what this is.
And then my BFF, who's like, way to call me out, but I love her. Thanks, Newfangled Housewife. Follow her on Twitter because she's awesome. Said that she's been trying to think of a favorite brand, but really, you know, there are so many. But she said, is it weird that I love Pampers and Love ads? I love the Pampers ad. No, not the Pampers. Love's ad, and I don't even have babies, so I understand.
Exactly.
Like, I love the...
Actually, what an old one is that you all made me think of is the Coppertone ad. That brand has been around for, what, like 60 years?
Mm-hmm.
With the kid with the, you know, bathing suit bottom coming off because the dog's biting on it, and you've got the tan line. I just made me think of that. Sorry.
Also a really great brand. What's Moose Jaw? Did we find out?
Okay, so Moose Jaw is an online and brick-and-mortar retailer specializing in outdoor recreation apparel and gear for snowboarding, rock climbing, hiking, and camping. Founded in 1992 by 2 wilderness guides. That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Know what I think makes, like, you know, it's a really good brand when you replace the actual word for what it is with the brand name, kind of like, I'll Google it.
Yes.
I mean, they don't have a monopoly on the search feature, but we now Google things.
That is the goal of a truly great brand, is to become a verb.
I'm tweeting that quote. That's great.
That is because, you know, as sad as it is, Yahoo used to be like the major search engine, and then kind of I think Google came in and just took over everything. Does anybody remember Ask Jeeves? Does that still exist?
Oh, yes, I love that.
It does. Exactly. So, I mean, even you think about the online search, there's so many options. So how do people choose? And people choose based on, actually this leads us greatly into our next area, which is people choose based on perceptions. So perceptions are the ideas that you own in people's minds. So people need shortcuts when they think about a brand. There's I think a ridiculous amount of toothpaste brands, over like 75 in the marketplace. No one can process 75 different kinds of toothpaste before making a purchase decision. So what we need to do is create signals in people's mind and own perceptions about what you can stand for. So a brand consists of 2 things: the perceptions that you own and the promise that you make to your consumer. So think about when you're writing a novel, what are the perceptions that you want to own? What do you want people to know about you, think about you, and really just immediately say, oh yeah, Nikki, she's that writer, she does that, and it's really amazing. What are those shortcuts?
I just wanted to make Nikki's face big because that was the most adorable look on her face ever.
You mean this one?
Yes!
Sorry, I was like typing the quote because I'm like, these are fascinating quotes. I need to share them with the world. I'm like, I'm a writer that has a brand. I'm so excited.
Yes, you have a brand. Exactly. So the perceptions that you own and the promise that you make. So then when people engage with you, what are you promising their engagement is going to be like? Is it every time they come to you, it's going to be fun and innovative? So if you think about some of the really great brands out there, think about Harley Davidson. They own the perceptions of rugged and manly and almost this don't mess with me, really great vibe of tough. If you think about who buys Harley Davidson motorcycles, it's about a 45-year-old white male accountant. Not so much a guy that you would be scared of, but, you know, they still own this crazy perception. that if you own a Harley, you're rough and rugged and you could probably beat somebody to a pulp. So that's really interesting. They've done a great job of taking an idea and owning it in the marketplace, and their promise is every time you buy a Harley material, bike, whatever it is, that you are going to be that rough, rugged, manly, super macho guy every time you engage with their brand. So that's something to think about with you as writers. What are you promising to your consumer? Every time I read a Christopher Moore novel, I'm going to laugh. That's the promise that he makes to me, is that he's got really witty writing. So what do you own? What are the perceptions you want to own, and the promise that you're going to make to your readers? So that would be a challenge to you all. Any questions so far?
You know, I'm just hearing this, and I'm kind of like,
It's
these
a
are
lot.
really good questions, because, you know, I'm sure, like many of our viewers, I've been writing for a long time, and I have no idea what perception I own besides a goofball. Maybe. I don't know. And I haven't thought about promising people stuff, but it does remind me. We talked about this earlier, I think, in the pre-show, or maybe it was at work, I don't remember, where when I was talking to my agent when I signed with her, we were talking about not just the book that got me my agent, but my next book and the book after that, and we talked about maybe the track I would have to go on would have to be consistent with the voice of the first book, so that my readers and the publishers could get to know me more as a writer. So, like, for example, at the time, my second book, I've mentioned it on here before, it was originally going to be The Life and Death and Life of Craig, which is a young adult thriller with the dual point of view of a boy and a girl. And she suggested that since my female voice is so strong in The Truth About Two Shoes, my next book should also be along those lines. So my next book, right now that I'm working on, who knows if it'll be my actual next book, God willing, but it's The Day I Knew I'd Be Murdered, and it's a young adult thriller like The Life and Death and Life of Craig, but it's a young woman's voice. And so she was saying that progression would, you know, make sure that my readers can follow me along. So it's like, okay, first an adult female, young adult female thriller, now it's a young adult female boy thriller, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's interesting. And Tasha's had the same thing too with your genre and next book.
Yeah, it was, you know, just what are you working on? Is it something similar to what you're working on? Because from what I understand, if you're going to wind up actually getting like a multi-book deal with the publishing company, they generally want it to be within the same genre and, you know, along the same lines of whatever your first book is. And that's not necessarily a guarantee or anything like that. You know, don't take that as word. Everything changes depending on what you're doing. Remember, subjective business, people. So, but, you know, I guess that my promise would be is that I'm going to write stories to the best of my ability and hope that people enjoy them. Like, you know, I don't know, because I write different things. I do. I write multiple genres, so I don't think I could pin it down to one, except I kind of do have a new slogan that I'm working on, which I was talking to Nikki about, but I'm not saying that until I reveal my new site. So
I think the closest thing I have is, and this is really rough, so no one judge me. This is not going to be a slogan on my website or anything, but I like to make sad things funny without disrespecting the sad. But otherwise, I need to really dig down deep and figure this out. For those watching, does anyone have an idea of what your perception of yourself and what you're going to promise your readers is? Or are you surprised by this too? Tweet us, and we'd love to hear your comments.
And by the way, guys, if you are just joining us, we do have Megan here. She is a marketing specialist. She's helping us with author branding tonight. You can follow her at Ahoy Maggie with a Y, not naive. I was informed there was a different one by Nikki. So feel free to follow her, and of course tweet your questions, comments, desires, and all those wonderful things to the hashtag WWWriting. We always love hearing from you.
So these are really tough questions, so don't think that you can find these out in just one night of soul searching. They really take a lot of digging, really understanding, look at who you are, what you want to be. And the really great thing about brands that stand out, the brands that have lasted, the brands that do really well, is that the perceptions that you own and the promise that you make are delivered at every single point of contact. That's the key of making a really good impression and a really strong stance with your brand. And every point of contact can be everything from the book that they read about that you've written. It can be the bio about you. It can be your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, anywhere where somebody can engage with you. Let's say you go on book tour, and Tasha goes on a book tour to 50 states. If she's a different person in every 50 states, people are going to think her brand is inauthentic. So you have to be consistent every time you deliver, whether that's through your book, personal engagements, anything like that. So take the perceptions that you want to own, the promise that you want to make, and be sure to be consistent every time you deliver it.
I have a question based on that. You were talking about how if you go to like 50 different states and you have kind of like, and you're giving off 50 different vibes, that it's not authentic. Now, what if an author has a pseudonym, and under each pseudonym they write a different genre? Like, how would that work via branding? Like, how would you make that authentic when you're using multiple names to write either different genres or just, you know, different series or whatever?
That's a great question. And don't judge the example I'm going to give, because I promise I read better books than this. But Nora Roberts actually has a pseudonym. She goes by J.D. Robb to reach a more manly market. So when book tours happened, she actually didn't do many book tours for J.D. Robb. It was a lot of publishing from what I've researched. And so that way when it went out and she had a personality around J.D. Robb built up, it was more about that sort of manly writer and male author connecting with male audience. And so you have that ability. Lots of brands do that where they have different product lines or different sub-brands. You can have that ability if you need that to play around with, if you want to reach different people, if you want to do different things. The main thing to understand is there going to be a common theme across your different types of genres or writing? That way it can all unify under one author, or do you need pseudonyms? Do you need to go out and have a different market? If all of a sudden, you know, Nikki writes young adult and she wants to go after the, you know, 65-year-old lady romance market, she may not be able to do that underneath her current author name.
You caught me. How did you know? I love talking about dentures and stuff too.
So that would be something to think about is, do you need those? Do you need different sub-brands? Do you need different pseudonyms to go after different things? Or does it go back to those perceptions that you own and the promise you make? Is that true across all things that you write? So if it is true, if you can have a theme that connects everything, then go for it. Have one brand, have it all be unified, and then help people navigate across those. Or if you feel that they're completely different, then have two different brands. Have a pseudonym and then your current name.
So on that note then, and I only bring this up because somebody brought it up to me, and I mean, my pseudonym, I don't really care. It's my maiden name. Okay, that's my pseudonym. I like my maiden name better. That's just how it is. And it's a more unique name, it is. So, and that was one of the reasons I liked it. So do you think somebody who has, like, you know, their last name is Smith or Jones or a really popular last name, do you think it would be better for them to use a pseudonym to brand themselves that isn't as common, that's more unique, so that it's easier for them to brand and not be confused with other people?
That's a great question, to which I would answer, not necessarily. The brand is more than your book cover. It's more than your logo. It's more than your name. It goes back to what are the perceptions that you own and the promises that you want to make. So if you are Joan Smith, author of crime novels, if you have the most unique perspective on crime novels, the most unique way of writing, and you are truly different in the marketplace, Joan Smith can stand out and be an amazing name. People will know. It's not just your name. It's more than that. So think about all of the things that come together. All the pieces and parts are greater as a whole.
Speaking about common names, John Green is actually, you know, you hear him now and you think, young adult author who's famous in The Fault in Our Stars. That is actually one of the most common names ever. We actually, me and Megan in our office have a John Green, and he makes jokes about it all the time. He says he wants to write like a foreword for my book. But originally, John Green's social media said the real John Green as his like Twitter handle and his tags, and now he's changed enough after 10 years just to have John Green.
So it is more than just a name, but that's a great question. So actually, that leads us into how do you make a great brand? How do you understand the perceptions that you want to own and the promise you want to make? So a great brand, to help you get there, here's an exercise that you can do. You can do what's called true, meaningful, and different. So we're going to take a scroll back to 7th grade, maybe earlier, depending on how smart you were, and we're going to do a Venn diagram. Anybody know what a Venn diagram is?
I do.
Same. So,
I hate them, but I know what they are.
trolling down memory lane. True, meaningful, and distinctive are sort of the 3 key elements that go into creating that little small area that becomes the promise, the perceptions that you own, and the promise you want to make. So true is the first one. So we have our first circle, and don't judge my drawing. Can you see my drawing?
I love drawings.
Drawing. Okay, so draw yourself a Venn diagram if you're watching. So true is the first part. You can't change what's true about yourself. You don't want to change what's true about yourself. So make a list of everything that's true about who you are as an author. Your writing style, when you started writing, your genre, what's true about you. So for example, Tasha, what's true about you? What's your genre that you write?
Currently I'm writing romantic suspense.
Excellent. See, romantic suspense. So that's true. Now, the next step, and this is the tough one. This is the second circle. The second circle, and I'll write bigger this time, is meaningful. So now we have 2 pieces parts. So meaningful is the second part. Meaningful goes into and talks about what is meaningful to your target audience. So Nikki, what's meaningful to young adults? What do they want to hear in a book? What do they want to read?
Well, I think
this is where it gets hard because generally I don't necessarily think about what my target audience wants to read.
I think young adults want to be felt like they're trusted to be mature enough to handle topics that are not necessarily young adult, like serious issues like drinking, drugs, etc. Things that are considered things they shouldn't be doing, but might
are an actual part of life.
And I think they like to know that they're acknowledged as smart individuals. I always talk about John Green because I love him, but he writes almost overly smart young adult characters that don't even sound like teenagers, but they're so widely accepted by that audience because they enjoy reading that, and he's done a good job with pulling them in.
Exactly. And so meaningful is actually a really hard one to understand. And thinking about who your target audience is really helpful. Not to stifle the creativity of writing a book, but then you want to think about, does my book relate to my target audience? Did I write a book that actually will resonate with a 16-year-old girl, or did I write a book that will resonate with a 30-year-old married woman? Which one is it? And really understanding that. So here comes the Venn diagram fun one. You can have something that's true about who you are, but not meaningful to your target audience. That doesn't do you any good. Doesn't make you distinctive, doesn't make your brand really strong. You can have something meaningful to your target audience that isn't necessarily true about you. So finding that overlap is key. So the last part, the secret sauce of our Venn diagram, is different. My drawing stinks. This is why I'm not a designer.
I think it's beautiful, Megan. I think everyone should look at this Venn diagram and gaze at its beauty. For one last time, could you tell us the 3 circles again? Because I think there's a bit of an echo, and some people have been commenting on that.
Sure.
See, I'm the only one not hearing the echo. I wonder. Let me turn down my speakers. Maybe it's coming from me. Okay.
So we've got true, what's true about who you are, what's meaningful to your target audience, and what's different. So this is our third and last one. What is different about you? This is probably the hardest one to nail down because it's harsh. You have to be harsh about what truly is different. If you write young adult, are you different than the thousands of other young adult authors? What makes you different? Once again, going back to our fun Venn diagram, you can have something that's different about you, but may not be meaningful to your target audience. Or you may want something that's different that's not true to who you are. That doesn't do you any good. It's where you overlap between what's true about who you are, what's meaningful to your target audience, and what's different about who you are, So this is our like itty bitty black piece in the middle. Whoop. That's the core of your brand.
That spot is tiny.
It's tiny. It's tiny. Because
it seems very hard to get to as well. Like, it's not going to be an easy, an easy time getting to that one specific niche.
Exactly. So really making sure that all three of those that overlap, those are going to make brands that are truly impactful in the marketplace. That's going to make you as an author completely stand out, and being able to voice that to an agent, to an editor, to a publishing house is going to make you be that much more attractive to them, because you can come in and say, here's why I'm different. Here's why I'm going to be the next big thing, because I have a new perspective and it's meaningful to who I want to reach. And by the way, it's true to who I am. I'm not being inauthentic about it.
See, and this reminds me of, we recently had, maybe not recently, maybe a month ago, we had Lindsay Tiger, the blogger of Confessions of a Love Addict, and she got her agent through her blog, and she, it was, I think, because she mastered that really early on, where she's blogging about dating in New York, but in such a vulnerable way that an agent took notice. And her books don't necessarily, they won't actually be like her blog. It's going to be something different, which I can't wait till she can announce that and be on the show again. But yeah, it's that teeny little spot that she just nailed it. I don't think I've nailed it yet. So if you're watching and feel like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this little teeny dot? I will learn with you. It'll be okay.
Well, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. So, guys, we are at the halfway mark. So, if you're just joining us, again, this is the lovely, lovely Megan, who is a marketing expert helping us with our author brand and how to get there, which it's not easy. We're learning very clearly how not easy this is. So, it should be interesting and fun. But since we're at the halfway point, I do want to just make a few quick announcements. First of all, if you guys go to whiskeyWineWriting.com, you can see our book of the month, which is Where Did You Go, Bernadette? By Maria Semple. And that was picked by the lovely Caitlin Rantella. She has a YouTube video called The Glossary, where she does these really awesome makeup tutorials based on characters or books. And she actually did one for Where Did You Go, Bernadette? And that is on the page too, as well, on Whiskey Wine Writing. And so you can actually watch the tutorial and go along with it. It's really, really gorgeous. She's amazing. So make sure you check that out. And, by the way, since we are at the halfway point, let's go with the What's Up With You segment. So if you guys have been watching the last few weeks, we do have the What's Up With You segment. It can be writing related or not, or just whatever is awesome in your life right now. So, Megan, what's up with you?
Let's see. Well, I entered my 3rd trimester, which means I'm almost done with pregnancy, which is awesome. I'm super stoked.
I would never have guessed you're in your 3rd trimester. You look absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thanks. I feel like a whale. I get to eat ice cream whenever I want, so there are perks. There are perks. No, I'm just I'm reading a cool new book, Clockwork Angel, that I am devouring, and so I highly recommend. And that's what's new with me.
Awesome sauce. Well, again, congrats on the pregnancy, and I hope it's a smooth delivery and a happy, healthy baby.
Me too.
Nikki, what's up with you?
Oh, so much, and yet so little. I just actually tweaked my personal professional author site. Originally, I was blogging on my health blog, MrsHealthyEverAfter.com, and then I realized my healthy readers didn't appreciate my writerly thoughts, but my writerly readers were like, what's up with your recipe? So I've now migrated my author blog to my professional site, NikkiRoberti.com, and that's been fun. And my brother recently wrote a story called The Pizza Story, and I've been reading that.
That's awesome. That sounds like it's a lot of fun.
It's about a mystical pizzeria. I probably shouldn't talk about it. He hasn't given me permission to. It's good. It's good.
Awesome. Definitely sounds like fun.
How about yourself? What's up with you?
Oh, so much. I'm in the last few weeks of the semester, and then I have summer off. Huzzah. I'm wearing red lipstick because there is an organization I called, actually Kim Graff, who was on the show a few weeks ago. she posted it, and it's redmylips.org, and it's wear red lipstick in April to raise awareness about sexual violence and speak out against victim blaming, which is just such an important cause. So all this month, guys, on the show, I'll be wearing red lipstick. I will be supporting this. I, encourage you. They also have a Facebook page. Go there. If you can't donate money, at least put the word out. The more people know, the more people who can donate and all that good stuff. So that's always good. And then there really was something else I was going to say. Oh, yeah, somebody was talking about how we didn't have whiskey on the show lately. Here's the whiskey. It's back, just so you know. So it's back. It's awesome. And other than that, not a whole lot. So doing pretty good. Kind of busy, but good. So can't complain. So, and now we bring you back to your regularly scheduled author branding program with Megan.
Which, remember, if you have a question on personal branding or marketing in general, tweet us at #WWWriting or come into the Google Hangout because, she's a wealth of knowledge, people. You should take advantage of it. I have this theory that maybe this concept, at least for me, it's like so new that it's hard to even formulate the questions, which I understand. And if that's the case, we will have her back because she is awesome.
Yes, it is. It's not an easy subject. It really cracks me up when people say, "Oh, it's just a brand. It's so easy." I'm like, no, it takes a lot of digging and a lot of being really honest to figure out what your brand is, what you want it to stand for, and then it takes a good amount of effort to make sure that you're living consistently to it. So if you think about the brands that have been around forever, that are huge brands, they have a lot of team around them to make it happen, make it work. Take Coke, for example. Coke is a massive global brand. They got a lot of people working on it, making sure it's consistent all across the board. So brands are not like Coke, but it's totally doable. Totally doable to do. So once again, we're talking about true, meaningful, and distinctive. And sort of at the core of where those overlap is where you're going to find a brand that becomes truly awesome, that's going to be amazing in the marketplace, that's really going to help you stand out. So once you do all that, that becomes basically your decision filter. So if Nikki all of a sudden wants to write for 65-year-old grandmas, she's going to look and say, is it true for me? Is it meaningful to that target audience? Is it going to make me different in the marketplace? If those three don't overlap, then she should probably say, no, I think I'm good. If all of a sudden she has an idea for a novel that will come out that will reach young adult girls about something that's sad, but yet you can see the funny side of it, that's true to who she is. It can be meaningful to her target audience, and then she'll find a way to make it different. And so that'll make her book resonate with the marketplace.
I don't know, because I think that, you can write for different genres and different age groups, and it's still true to you. Sometimes you don't realize that this is, something that you could do, and then it kind of comes out and you're like, holy crap, because I used to write urban fantasy, and when I wrote Redemption, it was like, I don't even know where this came from. It's like, okay. So I still think you can write different genres and for different audiences, and it's still going to be true to you. It's just, what the story is and making sure you know which target audience it's going to be aimed for.
Well, for example, one of the, even though I had that conversation with my agent about what my next couple books should be, I have actually written and I've talked about that maybe a few times, it's on my blog, The Adventures of Shoe Girl, which is, about a 6th grade superhero who goes invisible when she wears her shoes. And that's middle grade, even though I'm writing mainly young adult right now. But my agent has talked to me about that possible series for the future, and we think we can find a place for it. So you can definitely hop genres for sure. I just think you are more than your genre as a brand in general is what she's saying. And so, I
think it's keeping true to your voice.
Yeah, my middle grade book still actually it deals with I won't say I'm an issue, right? I hate that term, but there's still sad things. But I like the funny. We do actually have a comment from the Peanut Gallery. A viewer, L. Evans, just tweeted us at Runaway Tale that she is working on her diagram right now. Way to go, L. Evans!
That's awesome.
For your diagram. I can't wait to do my diagram after the show.
I'm going to be honest, I probably won't because I hate Venn diagrams. I'm more like a mind mapper. I like to do the mind mapping. So I make the bubble and do the mind mapping.
Do you remember that thing when you're, the MASH game when you were in junior high? Are you going to be married? What's your income? All that fun jazz, the MASH thing. Are you going to live in a shack, a house, a mansion? You can do that and have like just lists what you're true, what you're meaningful, what you're distinctive, and then just like go through and circle things that are across all the boards. So it doesn't have to be a Venn diagram. It helps.
I'm sorry, I just heard porn here.
It's all about the soul search.
It is. And I do agree. It's definitely more than the genre. It's about your voice. You can be consistent in your voice that it's true to who you are across multiple different genres. It's really about finding what is that core truth underneath all of it that's going to connect all of the different genres that you write for. And how do you keep that consistent? Because people like consistency. People need consistency. They need to know what they're expecting. A great example of a brand that tried to go out to a different audience and completely failed, in my opinion, is Old Spice. Old Spice is, let's take Old Spice versus Axe. Both are deodorants, both keep you from smelling bad, and both wanted the teenage boy market. They had a lot of buying power. There's a lot of teenage boys that are smelly. So you look at what Axe did. They are true to who they are. They created a great brand with great sense. They had something that was meaningful in the way that they talked about themselves. They talked about themselves, you know, basically you wear Axe body spray and you're going to get the girls. That's what every 14-year-old boy, I'm sure, is thinking about at that point in their life, which is how do I get more girls to like me? And what's different about them? So they had a really unique way that they branded themselves visually, verbally, the way that they had their advertising that made them different. They dominate the teenage market. You look at Old Spice. Old Spice, really old brand. You think of like a 45-year-old man wearing Old Spice. Maybe even your grandfather wearing Old Spice. It's kind of that.
My grandfather is 96. I don't even think he knows what half that stuff is.
He may not be sweating a whole lot these days. But Old Spice, they also wanted to tap into that younger market. So they brought in the Old Spice guy. He was really fun, really hilarious, but their brand didn't really resonate. Your name was Old Spice. You were viewed as old. The perceptions in the marketplace was that you were for an older generation. So trying to brand themselves younger, they tried really hard, but I don't necessarily know that they succeeded in owning that perception in the marketplace.
I don't even remember this. Like,
I loved those commercials. And I think it's funny you mentioned because you could tell they were trying to go for younger, but my brother actually, once he graduated college and got his first job as a teacher, that's when he started wearing Old Spice because he wanted to be more sophisticated. However, I have to tell you, he was horrified one Christmas when he realized he smelled exactly like our grandpa.
That's okay. I liked how Nivea came about it. Like when they were like, you know, it doesn't have a huge odor. I'm not going to have girls swooning over me. And the guy's like looking all sophisticated wearing a business suit, but he's like in his late 20s, early 30s. And Nivea was like, yeah, I don't reek. I smell good and I'm presentable and it's what I want as a businessman. Like I totally remember that commercial. I do not remember this Old Spice thing. I'm gonna look this up on YouTube.
Look at Old Spice. They tried really hard, but I don't know that they did a very good job of truly resonating with that specific age group that they were trying to go after. So this is a great idea. The perceptions that people own are really strong. If people think of your brand as old, it's going to take a lot of work to change their perception over time. It can be done, not to say that you can't change people's perceptions, but it will take a lot of work. So,
what about brands that are kind of transcendent through time? Like, okay, if somebody starts singing the Double Mint song, I don't care how old you are, everybody knows the Double Mint song. Okay.
I don't know if I know that, actually.
Are you serious, Nikki? Are you serious, Nikki?
Nah, that's the only word I know.
Double your freshness, double your fun. That's the statement of the great Double Mint Engdahl. Okay, wow. So sorry you guys had to hear me sing. But anyways, yeah, it's like I just think some of those commercials, especially like for Double Mint and Mentos and everything like that, those old candy commercials that kept their slogan for a really long time, like just you know them.
You do know them, but I would argue that that's a generational knowing them. I don't know that my 14-year-old nephew would know who Double Mint is. So if you really want to look at brands that resonate, look at the brands that like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, GE, the really big brands that have lasted forever. You could even argue that some musical artists have lasted forever. Think of how many times Madonna reinvented herself. It's still true to who she is, but she's gone through a lot of manipulations and different perceptions that she wants to own, but she's still out there making music. Or you think about Cher, or I'm trying to think of a lot of people. A lot of them came
Michael Jackson.
And Michael Jackson, exactly. So thinking about the longevity, but once again, I could argue that those are probably generational as well because not a lot of people now know
I was actually watching a video of teenagers now watching songs from the 90s. Like, well, they weren't watching it. They had headphones on. They didn't tell them who they were, but when the song was over, they would ask them, and very few. And she was like, one of them was like, as a 90s child, I feel like I should be better to my people. I should know this. And they were like, when were you born? She's like, 1999. And I'm like, 1999, a 90s child does not make.
Well,
okay.
I claim 80s. I'm 89. Is that bad? I will not give up the 80s. It is mine.
I love the 80s. I was born in 83. I'm not ashamed of my age. I love the 80s. I love the 90s. They were a hell of a ride. So it's a lot of fun. But it's just funny that to me she was like, yeah, I'm a 90s child. Like, and she said I should be better to my people. And I'm like, your people? Okay. So I do have a question. If somebody is doing their brand for the first time, like I made the mistake of instead of branding my author name, I kind of branded a slogan which was 30 Nerdy Fabulous. And so when I went to brand my author name, I kind of had to shed that skin to transition into my actual author name. So if somebody is branding themselves for the first time, if they're just walking and dipping their toes into these waters, what would you say to them? Like, what advice would you give?
I would say start with a true, meaningful, distinctive. Really take a hard look of what you want to own, and then just go with it. If that 30 slogan had really worked for you, weigh the pros and cons. How much would it have hurt you if you kept going with that versus getting your author name going? You know, would it have been ideal to keep going with that if it had a large audience following you? Or is it worth it to say, nope, I need to transition over? So you think about people that have brands that have changed their name. You can definitely do it. You just have to weigh the pros and cons of, are you going to lose people in the transition? Are you going to gain so many more new people with the transition that it's worth it? And how consistent are you going to be moving forward? If you change your name every 2 years or change how you present yourself, that's not going to be super effective. People aren't going to be able to follow you and track with you. Changing a name is hard. You can also do sort of interim strategies of how to change a name. So you could have had your 30 slogan brought to you by Natasha, and then slowly over time, Natasha can get bigger and bigger, and that name becomes more and more predominant. So changing a name, you can do one of two things. You can say, okay, I want to change from one thing to another super fast, like peeling off a Band-Aid. You take the hit, you may lose people, but you're going to start over.
That's what I did.
Or, which is a great strategy, or you can do more of a slow transition, which is also a great strategy. They both have their pros and cons. So you can do a slow transition to move from one thing to the next.
So I think the way you did it, Tasha, was really good because you started doing the transition once you got your agent, so your old audience was really happy to follow you over to your name, and now that you're being this fabulous author person, you're getting all these new people who will now go buy your books if they identify with your name. I think like a great example of this, not to bring Lindsay up again, but she was, you know, she's Love Addict NYC is her Twitter handle.
But
which I always,
Lindsay's awesome, so it's okay.
I was always confused though, why isn't she just Lindsay Tiger? Because that's a fabulous name. Like, it is a great name.
It's very fierce.
And then I found out that with her agent, they are thinking about branding her books as from the blogger who brought you Confessions of a Love Addict, because her brand is actually international now, where she has readership all over the world. So people recognize Confessions of a Love Addict more than her name. And I think if she wanted to transition over, she'd probably have to do that slow thing, where your Band-Aid method worked great. And I'm kind of doing that. I don't know what I'm doing with my Mrs. Healthy Ever After and Nikki Roberti, so guys, don't get mad at me for messing with my blogs.
Well, I'm hoping within the next week or two my new website will be up, and then, you know, it's going to be awesome. My cousin is a graphic designer, website designer, awesome chick, and she's actually designing my business cards for when I go to the RT convention, and then she's doing my website as well. So hopefully within the next week or so we'll be able to unveil that. But again, I'm not saying too much about that till it's actually unveiled.
We do have a question from the audience. It's from Michelle Stewart, and it says, is your personal brand evolutionary? Can it grow and evolve with you?
Ooh. To that I would say yes, it is evolutionary. It does grow and evolve. If you look at the great brands over time, they do grow and evolve based on years of experience, years of doing things. And so I think as long as people come with you and are able to travel that path and you communicate well, now I don't think you necessarily grow and change in leaps and bounds. It's very slow moving. It changes over the course of decades, and so it's not necessarily a shock to people who are engaging with you, but it is definitely they've come along with you. So as you grow in age, I do think that your personal brand will grow in age as well.
I think a great example of this, and I'm not an expert on this author, and I don't know if you are either, Tasha. I just have a lot of friends who are huge fans. But J.K. Rowling with her big Harry Potter empire. And I think she wrote another book that was actually an adult
She
mystery.
did The Cuckoo's Calling.
Yes.
I believe that's what it's called.
I think it just did okay, and then after that she released Pottermore, which was an extension of her Harry Potter brand, and then I heard a rumor that there's going to be like a spin-off prequel book or movie or something like that in the same universe.
Well, the thing with The Cuckoo's Calling is she did that under a pseudonym. So it was basically, I believe it was like a, kind of a debut author, since it was a pseudonym and nobody realized it was her at first. But I mean, there were some major authors who thought that was the smartest thing she could have done, trying to write a different book to get away from the Potter brand, to show that she can do more than just Harry Potter. So, I think she was smart in that decision. And so that brings up another question. If you are tied so tight to a brand, is it smart to use a pseudonym if you want to try something new? So that this new thing is not necessarily tied with the old brand?
I think it depends on how strong your old brand is. I would say absolutely for J.K. Rowling, that was a great decision. I don't know that any book that she'd written with that name after Harry Potter would have done well at all, because Harry Potter became such a massive brand in and of itself. It's a force to be reckoned with, especially with all the movies and the fact that there's a Harry Potter land in Florida.
I still want to go.
I do too, in my dreams.
Random intermission, but speaking of this theme park, I had the funniest conversation with my mom where she was like, Nikki, I so believe in your young adult books, and I can't wait to see the McDonald's Happy Meal toy to go with it. And I was like, Mom, my book is about a pregnant teenager. They're not going to make an action figure of that for children.
I'm sorry, that's okay. So, but I do live in Florida, so I really kind of need to go because I've been here for a while and I still haven't been.
But yes, sub-brands can be powerful things. Going off and writing in pseudonyms can be amazing. It allows you a lot of flexibility. It is harder to manage because then basically you're managing two different brands rather than just one. But they do, like I said, allow you flexibility to go out and try different things, see if you do resonate. The big problem is then how do you get people to realize that that is you? And as you do the great unveil, let's say you have two different personalities, and you do the great unveil for your pseudonym that, oh yeah, this is me, really making sure that you message that correctly so that your audience isn't freaked out by it. Having a game plan going into it so it's not just some crazy reveal, but being strategic about how you let people know why you like that genre, why you're good at that genre, and then connecting that genre. What are some of the key themes that you write about that can connect back to what people already know you as? Give them that pathway to understand why you made that decision, why you're moving to a different genre, why you write something different, and help them understand. So it's really about making sure that you're taking that reader along the journey with you.
Know who also did a really good job with the whole pseudonym thing, now that we're talking about it, but Veronica Rossi, the author of Under the Never Sky, which is a best-selling young adult fantasy trilogy that I personally love, she was very open with how she is co-writing new adult books, and they're writing them under the name of Noelle August. And as many of you guys know, that sometimes new adult is a little more mature than young adult, but she wanted to keep her young adult brand, her, and her new adult brand, the thing with her friend, with Noelle August. And I thought that was really interesting that she did that, but she did a really great job connecting the two brands so we know that, like, they're still her, but that they're different types of books.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So when would you tell somebody not to have a pseudonym, like not to separate their brands, like
if you can't do a true meaningful distinctive for your pseudonym, then don't separate your brands. So every brand needs to be unique and be able to live on. You want your pseudonym to be just as popular, if not wildly more popular than your current name. So that means you really need to make sure that there's a reason, that there especially is a different. Why do you need the pseudonym? Is it really important? Is it making you different, not only different in the marketplace, but different from what you're currently writing? And so that would be, if you can't create a true meaningful distinctive for a pseudonym, then don't do it. Continue to go to your core brand of your true meaningful distinctive. And so basically your brand then can become a decision filter for what you do and don't pursue. So there may just be times where you have an amazing idea, but maybe you just don't pursue it. Maybe it's not true to who your brand is, and it's just going to upset your readers, confuse them. Like, why all of a sudden did you write some crazy mystery novel when you're a romance writer? Why all of a sudden did you write a crime thriller when you write historical fiction? So if you're going to confuse your reader and you don't have a reason for why you're doing it, then make sure you have a true meaningful distinctive is really the answer to the question. That one, have a pseudonym.
This is interesting too, and I don't want to say like too many specifics because this is just an author friend of mine. But she recently had shared in a writers group that her agent actually, I don't want to say rejected her pseudonym, but she highly encouraged her to keep her real name because she thought that her day job was so interesting that readers would love the connection between her books and her day job, and her day job and her real name were linked online really well, so her like branding there was kind of already there, and I thought that was really interesting that the agent had suggested that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So again, it comes down to when, you know, even with your pseudonym, it's subjective in a way with the industry and what your agent or the editors and the publishing houses might think about it.
Mm-hmm. But you can preemptively know that. So be a part of the conversation. I would encourage that with your publishers and editors. If you can come and say, here's why, here's the strategy behind it, here's my brand and what it stands for, but I have this new book that doesn't fit into my brand, here's why I think it is, then you can come prepared to be much more collaborative in that conversation, I would think, so that you can speak intelligently about your own work, how it fits in, what is your portfolio of novels, what's your portfolio that you have to offer, and then you can help them decide and make that decision, rather than them just telling you straight up, nope, here's what I think. Really being a part of that and collaborating, because it is your work, and you want to be a part of the decisions around it.
Awesome. Now, this might be a weird, I think maybe we haven't covered this yet, but your personal brand and the easy, like, Facebook, Twitter, blog things that we're all told as writers that we should probably get on to get a presence out there. What would be your one piece of advice for someone who has very minimal knowledge on brand or even what they want their brand to be? What is the basic that they should have as a foundation for their online presence?
I would say authenticity. Be authentic to who you are, because then at least you're hitting one of the true meaningful distinctives. You're going to be true. If you try to be something that you think you are, but you're not quite there and you're not true to yourself, people are going to see through you. So if you're starting out and you haven't necessarily defined what your brand is, start with what's true. True is really the easiest thing to think about. It may not be meaningful to your audience. It may not be different in the marketplace just yet. You haven't discovered those. That's okay. But if you start with what's true, then you can always move forward and progress from there.
That's really cool. And I like that because, like with Tasha's website and blog, I feel like when I read your stuff, Tasha, I have a great sense of who you are as a person, which also bleeds on to like our site with Whiskey, Wine, and Writing. But like, you know, you read your site, you know who Tasha is. There's definitely no like ifs, ands, or buts about it. She's her, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just have this thing that, you know, I'm not gonna lie about who I am. I'm really not. You know, I'm a lot of things, but you know, or I'm not a lot of things, but one thing I am is honest, and that means I'm going to put it out there in my way, and at least for my blog and stuff like that, you know, in my branding, I'm going to put out who I am, and it's kind of like a either take it or leave it. I hope you take it. I hope you don't think I'm like this terrible person or anything, but
no.
You know, I'm not gonna fake who I am to make people like me. Is my point.
Exactly. And then from there, you take the next step to say, okay, then what's meaningful to my target audience? So what's really going to resonate about what's true about me? And then you can take those pieces, and that's what you start highlighting. You don't necessarily have to highlight everything that's true about you, but highlight the things that are true and meaningful. Then you take the third step to say, okay, it's true, and people really enjoy this content. It's meaningful to them. Now, what makes it different? Am I really different in the marketplace? How can I be different from everybody else that's doing this? And then you get your trifecta. So you can start with true, move to meaningful, and then go to different.
I love how you've taken this, like, super big, complex concept and broke it down to 3 things. Because I feel like when I look at branding, I get overwhelmed. But when I think of those 3 things, even though it's still like, wow, I have a lot of soul searching to do, I should probably go on top of a mountain and do this for a while, I can still break it down easy enough that I'm not super overwhelmed, and I appreciate that. So thank you for doing that for us today.
Yeah, it's we are actually almost at the end of the hour, and it's been totally amazing having you, Meghan. Is there anything you would like to say or touch on that we missed, we didn't get a chance to talk about? Anything you want to just kind of tell the people watching?
You are your brand. You are your strongest brand advocate. So find out what it is and then share it with the world.
Awesome. I love that piece of advice. And Nikki, anything you wanted to touch base on?
Well, speaking of social media, we are, you know, trying to brand Whiskey, Wine, and Writing, and we have lots of things going on because, you know, Tasha has her real life and her author stuff with her agent, and I have my semi-real life with my author.
Tasha also has like a lot of papers and finals and everything else.
Oh yeah, because she's a student. It's amazing. And then like, you know, anyway, we decided that we need help, and we want to also create this more of a community with Whiskey, Wine, and Writing. So we're thinking about expanding our team. We aren't going to be releasing anything too soon, but keep an eye out because we might be looking for social media assistants, contributing staff writers, and maybe some assistants and more. So
yeah,
it's a great way to get your name out there too by linking with other brands, right, Meghan?
Yes.
Linking with other brands is a good thing. So long as the brand is good, don't link with bad brands. So, but Meghan, it's been amazing having you on the show. It's been really insightful. A lot of great things for us to think about and help us with our author brands and making it stronger, wiser, and transcendent. So that is absolutely amazing. Guys, you can follow her. I know we had some, this is why we don't like hangouts. We had some trouble with her tag. But you can follow her at Ahoy Meggy, Meggy. And, you know, just tweet to her, talk to her. She doesn't bite, I promise. She's actually really adorable and really sweet and was a lot of fun in the pre-show.
I know her in real life, and I can vouch for that. Everything Tasha's saying is true.
I met her for like 20 minutes in the pre-show, and I just thought she was the most adorable thing. And her husband's awesome, too. He, like, came on. He's like, hi, I'm Meghan. How are you?
That's like the me.
It was a lot of fun. So, but, so guys, again, if you are just joining us, feel free to watch the replay on our blog at whiskeyWineWriting.com. You can follow us at WWWriting for Twitter and hit up our hashtag same thing, WWWriting. So we love to hear from you. We love to talk to you. Feel free to tweet with us, talk with us, call me, beat me if you want to reach me, all that good jazz.
See, now I recognize that song. I didn't get the Doublemint song, but I got the Kim Possible song. Is that bad? What does that say about me?
That says at least you're up to date on the awesome music. So, all right, so guys, we are going to sign off for the night. We will be back next Monday with author Emily Bleeker of Wreckage. Go check it out on Amazon. She's amazing. It's a women's fic book. And we will be talking with her about the genre and all that wonderful stuff. So we will see you next Monday. Have a good night. Have a wildly creative night, actually.
Bye.
Bye.